Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoy your, good morning or the day. And we have a very nice surprise today. Actually, we have a guest, and this is really super because the guest will actually help us with the project that we've been discussing recently regarding GraphQL and gRPC. Welcome, Simon. We are XTechnology, as you know, and we talk and we collaborate on different technical projects. And here is just another session of today. Simon, can you say a few words about yourself?
Yeah. Hey guys, my name is Simon Liang, and I am Chinese, currently living in Singapore, and I used to work at Amazon in the US, and I started my startup and freelancing journey around 2017, and about 1 year in, we started to meet learning all these new tech and trying to help our clients solve problems. We quickly run into an issue which we want to use technology to solve, and then combining gRPC and GraphQL became one of them. So that's why we built this library or server. And I wonder if I can share a screen with the slides that I have.
Yeah, would be awesome. I think we can see it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. We did a talk in Bangkok for a GraphQL specific talk back in 2018, and at the time, the motivation for us to build the project is really that we as a team we work with a big variety of developers. They're either part-time or full-time, and they have different backend knowledge, backend language expertise. So for me, as kind of like the coordinator or project manager, I want to make sure like their productivity is maximized. So I don't want them to lock in into any specific language when they do the work. And also sometimes like some languages are just more powerful than the others on certain tasks. So we don't want to be locked into one and try to code our way out. We want to leverage the best features for each language. And lastly, we want to quickly surface the backend data from multiple sources to front end. And GraphQL will be a natural choice because at the time, because the main contract GraphQL has all the specifications so that as soon as the front end engineers and back end engineers agree on a single contract, they can start building. So at the time was a really cool feature, and if we are able to say have multiple backend engineers build out their servers and then quickly serve to the front end engineers, that would basically make our developer productivity go all the way up to the roof, right? So and then we discovered gRPC, which is basically I think a lot of the audience already know by now. It had a lot of cool things at the time, HTTP2 and streaming support, and it's also a typed definition using protocol buffers. So the specification of the service is defined using protobuf. So and if you look at it, actually, if you look at it, a GraphQL schema actually looks very close to a gRPC schema. A lot of you can actually describe almost all of the request types from gRPC in GraphQL, including streaming. So like there's a natural choice. Like if we can map whatever's on the left gRPC into GraphQL, that would be the perfect scenario. We don't have to do too much work. And then we started building, and then we started to find out there are like different there discrepancies between the two. Mainly there's it's the scalar types, or primitives. They are different. gRPC has a stricter output because like the way their output is serialized in protocol buffers is very tight. So like even all the numbers need to be defined into their bit sizes. GraphQL is much more relaxed.
Yeah, it's sort of on top of the text format, right? It's not a binary format. It doesn't compile the message. It basically over HTTP.
And the other thing we found is the message types. First of all, like gRPC, all fields are required. And GraphQL, I think there's optionals. So like you can omit some of the fields, but that's not the case with gRPC. Then also there's repeated, and then there's some other syntax like one-off or whatever. Like so it's more explicit on GraphQL, on gRPC, sorry. And GraphQL is more closer to a JSON schema. And then for requests for these queries and mutations, gRPC requires an input and output message, and it's a unary input, so you can only put one parameter in there. And GraphQL allows like no inputs or multiple inputs. So when you define, when we define the mapping, there's so on the GraphQL side, there's only certain things you can do if you want to like do a exact one-to-one mapping. So like you're slightly losing some features, or like like one way or the other. Basically, like you need to have some trade-offs when you design your gRPC schema and your GraphQL schema. And streaming is the one that's that differs the most, because gRPC allows the duplex streaming. So the client side can actually stream into the server side. While GraphQL, it's you set up a request and then you subscribe to the events. So like it's a unidirectional pub/sub. And there's more small quirks that we found when we are building the streaming feature. Like if you want to like cancel midstream from the server side, if you need to like pause a stream, you cannot do that from GraphQL. So like there's some intricacies that you need to kind of we need to do if you want to support like exact one-to-one mapping. But if you just want to like say stream stuff from the server to the client, it's doable. Right. And yeah, so that's basically the library, and that's and our finding at the time.
Thanks again. That's awesome. This is awesome slides. I don't know if you can share it with the audience. I saw your article, by the way. I read this material, and it had this link to slides, but I think it's closed right now from the public accept. Yes. So if you may share it, that would be awesome, I think. I actually did a bad job when starting the stream. I didn't introduce that really good. So the thing is, this is our, I think, third or fourth session in this topic. And a little bit background of that is that in these sessions, we or in this series, I try to explore indeed the way how we can connect GraphQL and gRPC. It didn't have the business use case like your project does. So for me, I think it's a really a good sign that it makes sense to use it both. While I was exploring and preparing for a next step, I found out this GraphQL mesh. And basically how I found your project is this GraphQL mesh was referring your project for gRPC solution. So I think it's the guide dev GraphQL, and then should be somewhere here. I'm not sure if I will find it. Maybe, yeah, yes, it sounds like that. Maybe, yeah. I hope I didn't mix it up, but it just refers your project, and it seems that the GraphQL mesh. They have a really good reasoning behind the project. Like they want to indeed connect different sources into one gateway. So yeah, it's just natural, basically, for gateways to do so, and they connect different sort of APIs like a REST API, GraphQL API, and the gRPC API, and they expose one endpoint for the clients, for GraphQL clients, probably. Yeah, so that's how I find out your repository. I already added to the comments to this chat. So for our audience, if you want to follow this project, that is really awesome. Yeah, so this is a very brief README on how to start it up. So what it does, like I explored a little bit this project, right? And how I understand what it does, it just purely converts one into another, right? Like just. However, I'm not sure. Okay. So looking at that, you have already a protocol buffer server running, and then gRPC, sorry, server running, and you can attach here convertible schema. So what this hook will do in this idea?
So the way I build this is that I try to be less vendor lock-in. So this just purely converts a protobuf definition into a GraphQL schema. So and then you can have and then the server will listens to all the GraphQL requests and use a gRPC client to talk to the gRPC server. That's basically it. So it's a lightweight layer, act as a gateway to translate the requests.
That makes total sense to me. About if you go back quickly, I have a few questions on what you just discussed earlier. This use case that you were telling us, how much code actually you had, like from different services that have been connected to some project. So how did you decide to end up with this connection? Is that because the services the amount of services was quite big, or it was basically exploration of what is the best?
For us, we are a smaller team, so like the main problem for us is the developer experience. So we want to make sure like our productivity is maximized. Not everyone has like especially for the people that I work with that were not full time. I don't want them to like say, hey, you have to learn Node.js because that's what we ship to our clients. So we allow them to say like write a Python server, and then we integrate instead of just like a REST server or like trying to find a Swagger or write out a Swagger spec. We decided to go with gRPC. That was the motivation at the time. But like I can there's definitely more use case for a bigger organization where they have lots and lots of services. we had a client that were like trying to embrace the microservices, and they were using GraphQL. So like even though we didn't do gRPC to GraphQL for this client, we still wrote out a GraphQL gateway for the client. So like all of the other REST services are connected to the gateway. So there's still advantages for like say merging all of the microservices and service to the front end. Yeah, and I can see like bigger organizations where these microservices, if they're connected to each other, and some other ones are also customer facing, then this solution will work very well.
It makes sense indeed. Yeah, I was having actually this first the second use case in mind when I was exploring it. Indeed, like when you have a set of microservices, yeah, it's just natural that you can connect it with some client-friendly, front-end friendly format. GraphQL fits well there. Yeah, and also what you said, it makes total sense that you can connect different technologies, so you don't rely on one specific team that does it. So that is perfect, I think. Also, you mentioned that it just come down into my mind that indeed, like for interfaces, for protocols, it makes sense that you have that in GraphQL, both GraphQL and gRPC, they have schemas, right? So it's a much more structural interface than if you just do it with the REST. However, you can declare it with Swagger indeed. All right. One technical question for later, I guess. So yeah, what do you think could be the disadvantages of this approach in general, or like if there are any, of course?
Like you mean just like by converting gRPC like into a GraphQL server?
Yeah, or even like in general, you know, like to combine these two formats. What is yeah, well, why it doesn't work to do though?
I think like the bigger the company you have, like or like the bigger the project you have, the more services you have to kind of like pull to get the data you need. It's better to use this setup and approach. But like at the like we like one reason we're pausing the effort on our end is that like the projects we're working on is not big enough to do this. So it kind of loses the appeal for us. So we didn't really need like to fire like 3 to 5 gRPC services and then like set up a GraphQL gateway for every project. So that's why we didn't continue working on this.
I see. Yeah, I was having in mind like maybe the disadvantage is that you need to, of course, implement this conversion, right? And for that, you need to support all the new versions. Well, ideally, right? Like new features that the gRPC can potentially provide. And yeah, that's always the disadvantage you have when you're working with such sort of tools. All right. Yeah. So I didn't know actually that streaming is possible with GraphQL. Maybe they didn't read the documentation that much, but yeah, nice to know that too. Yeah, so this is how, if we explore a bit your project, this is basically the main source of it, right? Like this contains most of the logic. Yeah, I quickly checked. It's using the GraphQL types, right? Like not the types, but the original GraphQL JavaScript library to generate types on the fly. Yeah, it's written in TypeScript. I think you either said it or read it before that you first had implemented it in a JavaScript and then you wrote in TypeScript, which is awesome. Yeah, so anything you would specifically mention about the implementation at this point?
Yeah, like at the time we didn't have too much tooling to work with. So because like GraphQL when we just started doing this, GraphQL was still a little new. So there's only Apollo and all the JavaScript tooling that we have. So the gRPC side was also a little lacking as well. So like the way I thought of doing is basically have a library to read in the protobuf and then generate the schema for GraphQL in JavaScript. So so that's how we did it. And since like if the client code needs to be you need to run a code gen, so I didn't want to do that, so I used a client that does not require a code generator to use. So yeah, that the project, like I would say, is a little ahead of its time. By now, like there's so many more toolings. I just found another project. Just before the call that are written in Golang.
Yes.
So like in Golang, there's like all these like protobuf generators and also the GraphQL generators. So like it's easier to build by now, and there's just so much more choices.
I'm not sure if that's the one, but indeed I was I've seen related projects that are written in Go. It's a very natural gRPC world is really natural to Golang, but not limited to that, of course. Awesome. I quickly checked the source code, and it seems that you parse in the schema and basically doing the iteration over the protocol buffer definition file, and you since you iterate the types, you generate them with a GraphQL. I'm trying to find an example of that. Well, somewhere here, I think is something like that going on. Maybe a little background on the project that I'm doing right now. So it's now almost empty, by the way. So I was just playing with this possibility basically, and I started writing the protocol buffer compiler plugin. So basically, this is the initial code for it that indeed just takes a file as an input, so that all happens inside the protocol buffer compiler, and then you can add a plugin to that, like this one is in form of global npm install dependency. And after that, you basically can just do something like that, protoc, and then the name of your plugin. In this case, this is my plugin, GraphQL out. And you put the input argument to that, and that will produce theoretically a schema. But like you said, you didn't want to generate code, right? You basically doing it in a runtime. Can you say maybe some considerations that you have for that? Why it works?
I think it's just more flexible. Like say if I for example, if I have like the protocol buffer files ahead of time, or like dynamically pulled from a repository or a service, I might be able to like set up a GraphQL server that's hot, and it doesn't require that many restarts or even builds. So that was the consideration. But at the time, like I wasn't looking at the proto C at the time, so like I didn't want to go like that deep into the kind of like the integration chain. So
I see. It makes sense. Yeah, back to your project, I had one question there. I think that I missed. So basically, when you parse the protocol buffer file, you rely on some naming convention, which again makes sense. So if you see the mutation in the service name, that probably will be the mutation for GraphQL. Is that correct?
Yeah. I went for a convention over configuration setup. So like most of the types, say if you have a message type that has an input suffix, that basically tells us that it's an input type, and then the result type is the other way. It's for the output, and so this way we don't have to so when you set up your services, you don't have to like do too much. Like you don't have to go through too many changes, or like you don't have to set up a configuration in the gateway to get your GraphQL schema. So that was the design.
Yeah, that's logical indeed. So yeah, like just to show to the audience. So yeah, in this example, like we have a service and it has a methods get movies. So probably that will be a query when transformed to the GraphQL schema, and that I would suppose, but I don't know from the code that I saw that will be also a query because it doesn't have the mutation name inside. Is that something like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
the example does not include a mutation.
Okay. Yeah. So next would be next not topic, but like I have a few questions for myself in this project that I'm trying to figure out. So maybe you can help with those. So first of all, are you familiar with the with some transformation libraries that potentially can serve for this purpose? Or would you suggest, on the other way, to reuse part of this code in my project if I can go on with it? Decide to go on.
Were you asking like if you should like go ahead and parse things yourself, or?
Yeah. So maybe you have some ideas already. Like if you would do it from scratch, would you write your parser this time?
I probably will not. Like if I were to do this again in 2023, I definitely would not write my own parser, because I know there's so many options out there that I should be able to find existing parsers in many languages that can basically give me a structured output for the schema on both sides. And so like I don't think I would write my own at all. And at the same time, if I were to do it again, I probably would not use TypeScript this time, because as a gateway, I definitely want it to be more performant. So like using something like Rust or or Golang, or even in the JVM, like it will work much better. There are a few projects out there. I don't know if you're familiar, like Google's Rejoiner or Netflix's DGS. These are kind of like their the way they're running. Like these big companies are running their GraphQL gateways. DGS, Domain Graph Service.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
they
the
have
other
a
one you
pretty.
said,
The other one is called Google's Rejoiner.
No, I didn't know that.
Rejoiner is a little old, but it's exactly what we're doing. Because it tells you like, hey, I want unified GraphQL from gRPC services. So like that's exactly what we need. But I think they're using schema stitching like Netflix's DGS is more on the federated gateway side. So instead of like merging schemas, like they're doing more like they're building like a federated approach where each field can be extended, and like a single field in the GraphQL output can be fetched from a separate service. So like the way they're approaching things is a little different.
Oh, that's awesome. Then a question I have to this point. Then, why would we invent a new gateway in this case? Like, what would be the reason for that? Especially if you look at this rejoiner or the other alternatives. Like, what would be the idea for a new one?
Yeah, I would say like it doesn't hurt having something smaller, more compact than these solutions. Like DGS, like they are battle tested for sure, but they're pretty big. So like if you have lots of services and you need to make sure like they run at the tip top shape, I think going for DGS makes sense. It doesn't necessarily do the translation. Like you might need to write the translation part yourself. But like you do get all the GraphQL benefits by nesting all your services inside, because it solves the data fetching problem for you. There's a lot to consider when you build a GraphQL service. But like if you don't need all that bells and whistles, and you just somehow have a service that is gRPC, for example, I think one of the services I worked with last year called Gina AI. I think they're building a Python services like using gRPC. So if for some reason I want this to be in GraphQL, and I have all these like little AI executors that are deployed, and I want to like service all at once, and I want something lightweight, I would consider building something smaller that will service all these out. To make it more, I would say like to make it more useful, like solve the problem for authentication, and then like and things like that, or like optimize the way data fetching works inside the gateway will be very useful for this setup, because like merging the schema and serving it isn't the hardest. The hardest is like all the other, like say the production considerations. Like I would say people wants to use the federate like a combined gateway. It's because like if a user is authorized and authenticated, like there's only certain fields they can access to. And if we can solve that use case for the users, I think you will get traction.
I see. Awesome. So yeah, that makes total sense to me. I'm asking myself, okay, then probably I need to rethink the idea for this protoc plugin itself. Like I asked actually Matteo Collina, and he also doesn't see a reason to do it in ahead of time, like a compilation ahead of time. You can indeed feed your gateway on a runtime, and it will just warm up during the warm up, so you will not lose any time, like for clients. So that's awesome. I have maybe some other things in mind, but yeah, like what you said, like have a smaller gateway, a smaller product for serving all these services, microservices. That would make total sense. I think in this project I was trying to think about the transformation more. Like if I would implement the transformation, how would I iterate over the types? Like how I would properly generate new types. But then I found out that it's actually quite monstrous amount of work because you need to consider like different references between different files and different types, like different because the protocol buffer, it supports many different things, and you need to think of all the details to implement your GraphQL types correctly. So that is good. What else I can think of? GraphQL schemas here. And I'm checking my notes for the project, like what could be the backlog for it. Maybe you have some ideas then, like if you would build it from scratch right now, where would you start from? Like you said, these production related considerations. So one of those, authentication, something like that.
Yeah. I think the main appeal for like setting up a gateway like this is it's really solve the data fetching issue, right? Because like GraphQL is a bridge between front end and back end. I think I don't know if you're familiar with the TRPC project. I think it solves the problem very, very well, because it gives you a contract that's in code and is shareable between front end and back end. So like it does this data fetching it solves this data fetching problem very, very good. GraphQL is very similar, but like the way it's built has more granularity for sure. Because here it's mainly just like you set up your request, you do the data fields validation. But for GraphQL, it's more like I have this scheme, I have the graph for all the data that you can get, and like at the request time, you can the gateway should be able to decide what you can get and what you cannot get, and where and how to get them. So like that's the purpose for a gateway to me. So I would definitely focus on that if I were to build the gateway. Merging it's good, but like I think having a convention is good enough. So that's why I didn't go too deep into like I want to be 100% compatible between gRPC and GraphQL. I like my slides, like at the time I already did research, the slides already told us like it's not 100% compatible. So that's why I went with convention over configuration, or like or make the process like as like more rigid than it is, just because like I know there like not every feature will be supported.
I see. TRPC indeed is a really nice modern library that does a convention between front end and back end. I think I met Alex this year. A really awesome project, and many people like it a lot. The other thing for that GraphQL also supports TypeScript types, right? So you can and that could be also something similar to TRPC in that way. So you can actually use these conventions on the runtime. Awesome. I think I at this point I almost finished my list of questions. So anything else we could discuss? You think regarding we didn't cover?
Yeah, up to you. Like I'm happy to kind of like share my like a little bit outdated of my GraphQL experience with you, because I really liked the concept. For me, I think it was I was a little too ahead. Like, to be honest, I was a little too ahead of the time. So like the ecosystem was not there. But like this year, if I look at it again, I think there's still it's still a very promising still a very promising protocol to use.
So what would be what would be the features to start with this project? Like this gonna be the GraphQL gateway, right? So it continues with this idea. And you said that okay, we're gonna have some conventions. What would be the first killer features that you would provide for this project?
Yeah, let me think. Yeah, I would say like just something like seamless. Like I think doing ahead of time compilation is fine. Like it's totally fine to do ahead of time because like I want like at the end of the day I have an existing GraphQL gRPC service. I want
Yeah.
to serve it to the front end using GraphQL.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think doing the compile time one calculations, I think it's totally fine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be good because like if you find a way to say like this is not tied to JavaScript or TypeScript, where
Mm-hmm.
like if you have a protoc plugin, you can generate the schema and then like all the other GraphQL servers can read the schema and understand what it does. Um,
Uh-huh.
and have some like, and we just need something very lightweight in the middle. Like say if we write it in Rust, do it using Rust's gRPC client and also like their GraphQL server. Like
Mm-hmm.
it will work very well. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
we yeah, like just a binary we can spin up to serve it as a gateway, and then
Uh-huh.
all you have to do is focus on writing the protocol services, like writing the gRPC services, and then you can go ahead and like use it on the front end. I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it then for today. Again, thanks a lot. That's really awesome to have you. I think that was like 100% match for this project, and you explained it really really great. Like yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, anything you want to add before we finish?
Um, yeah, I'd like to thank Alex for inviting me to the call, and I like to share my knowledge however I can. For me, like I switched to do some chatbot projects since I think right before COVID. Started to learn Rasa and then a lot of the NLP stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now like we just I'm just struggling to teach ChatGPT to do some of the chatbot stuff for me. So yeah, just and on my free time I do share my projects on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So if you look for youtube.com/@Simon_Liang, that's my channel. I share content in Chinese, but I do try to put on subtitles
Mm-hmm.
um, however I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw indeed. It's really awesome. This one, right? Yeah. Please
Yep.
follow Simon uh, in Chinese, right? All the most of the videos or not?
Yeah, the one with the lipstick has English subtitles, and I'm trying to
Uh-huh.
add the other ones too. So.
All right. Well, thanks, Simon. It's really was a pleasure, like I said, and yeah, if for our subscribers also, please do consider subscribing Simon with all the awesome projects that he does, and yeah, see you next time, I guess.
Yeah. Feel free to like we can let me know if you have any other questions on the GraphQL project, and happy to help however I can.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.